This video is sponsored by World Anvil. Well, this is progress. Obviously, if any of you have ever moved house, you know that it is quite a process. I haven't done it in, 10 years at this point. And, yeah, I sort of underestimated how intense this would be. But we're making progress. This is going to be where I'm going to be filming my videos. So now we know. Now we actually have that answer. We just need to do a little bit of, everything else. But in the meantime, why don't we talk a little bit about Dungeons & Dragons? This is the next installment in a series of videos on my channel where I guide and demonstrate and show new players, or players who are used to building their characters in specific ways, some new approaches you can take when creating your D&D character. Normally, this approach is about the first thing you start with when creating your character. For example, starting by rolling your ability points, or starting with a high concept. But today is going to be a bit different. Additionally, I usually create the character on screen to demonstrate the approach in action. But again, because of the nature of today's video, we have to take a different tactic. Because sometimes you don't really know where to start. Or you have too many ideas and you need a way to narrow it down. Or you just aren't very picky. Because really, today's video is best when you have a lot of different ways you can go, a lot of different ideas or possible interests for your potential character. If that's not the case, if you don't have a couple of different character concepts you might be interested in trying for a campaign, then this might not be the right approach for you right now. But I do still encourage you to try it, because that challenge might be really rewarding. The approach is this: don't choose. Wait for everybody else in the group to decide on their characters, and then you decide what you want to do. This is something that so many players already do when they join games that are already in progress. When somebody's joining an ongoing campaign, one of the first questions, well, after figuring out the logistics and the game time and whether or not you can actually make it to the games, the next question is almost always, what characters is everybody already playing? Or, if they're more specific, what classes do you already have? In 5th edition, there's really no reason you couldn't play a class that somebody else in the group is also playing. Classes and subclasses usually have enough options that you could have 2 people playing fighters or 2 people playing wizards, and both players could still have a lot of fun. And as somebody who just recently played in an all-bard game and ran an all-druid game for several years, trust me, there are still plenty of elements and options available to help keep the game interesting. But that does still bring me to the first reason why so many people do this. We don't want to step on the toes of anybody else in the group. Yes, sure, there are enough options so that you could play a very different character and still play the same class as somebody else in the same party. But that's no guarantee that it will play out that way. In the Bard campaign, we had a draft to choose our spells together so that no Bard had the same spells as anybody else. This was before Tasha's came out and pretty radically changed the way that bards interface with spells. Which, speaking of, that basically would have been impossible for the all-druid game. Because druids, much like bards do now, swap out their spells every time they take a long rest. They don't have to, but they can. But during that game, we still made sure that everybody was playing very different subclasses. Because it often just isn't very fun in D&D to have a cool, unique, special superpower that makes you feel like the character that you are, that somebody else in the group can also do. So by waiting to see what the other players have selected and created, we're making sure that we're choosing a character that won't overlap with the others. And now, a word from our sponsor. Can you hear me? I don't know if this message is getting through. I got pulled into a wormhole, and I got pulled into your campaign notes. Yes, I'm stuck in the notes for your next D&D campaign. Your notes are a mess. This is a mess here. Everything here is crazy. All of your NPCs are wandering around in dungeons and in the wilderness. The big bad evil guy is running the blacksmith shop for some reason. Your notes are in chaos, and I am very scared. There's only one thing you can do to save me. Don't try to send me food or weapons. Don't try to find the dimensional portal and bring me home. You need to organize your campaign notes. It is bonkers here. You can get this all sorted. You can organize your world and make this place a lot safer to live in by using World Anvil. Go to worldanvil.com and use their robust system of tools to organize your campaign notes and your timeline, because, by the way, every dead king is back because they don't actually know when they're supposed to be alive. So they're all just here now. It's not ideal for a government to have all the kings back. Oh, and if you're feeling like, oh, maybe it's too expensive, I don't know if I want to spend the money to save Super Geek Mike's life, well, you know what? I've got a promo code you can use to save my life. Go to worldanvil.com and use the promo code SUPERGEEK to save 40% off of your subscription. Things are not good here. Get your notes organized, figure out your world, figure out, like, your currency system is also just, like, I don't want to criticize. Save my life. Go to worldanvil.com and use the promo code SUPERGEEK to save 40% off of your subscription and stay me. For those of us who have so many ideas for D&D characters that we sometimes have a hard time choosing what to play, this approach also gives us parameters we can use to make the decision-making process a lot easier. Creativity sometimes requires restraint in order to thrive, and by waiting for other players to pick first, you're giving yourself a way to narrow down your choices. My Sunday morning group is getting ready to start a new campaign, and based on the premise that the DM laid out for us, I had 3 possible character ideas that I felt like they could fit really well with the story. One of them was a druid, one of them was a wizard, and one of them was a paladin. The characters of the druid and the wizard were ideas that I'd had for a long time. But the idea for the paladin came about when I heard the premise of the setting. I just came up with a concept that I thought could be an interesting match for that campaign. And I knew I could probably swing some other ideas as well. These were just the ideas I had before we even got to our session 0. But I did pretty much know that I wanted to either be a caster or a half-caster, which is to say I did not want to play a fully martial class. I didn't want to be a barbarian, fighter, monk, or a rogue. I know there are more magic-heavy subclasses for all of those classes, but I learned from my experience really enjoying playing the Rune Knight fighter. I like having cool magic stuff I can do a lot more than I like swinging the sword. I enjoy the creativity that comes from having access to magic, so even if I just played a paladin or a ranger, someone who still is very much a martial class but just has some spell casting that is a half-caster, I think that would satisfy me. Before our session 0, one player mentioned that they were thinking about playing a ranger. Fair enough, cool idea, doesn't conflict with anything that I have in mind. I didn't have a strong idea for a ranger character. Then we get on the online call for our session 0, and the other player says that he's really excited to try playing a wizard. Okay, cool. That's totally fine with me. I would have loved to play a wizard, but like I already said, I had other ideas as well. I also felt at that point like we needed a healer and we needed a tank. Druid or paladin both work really well for that. But why did I feel that way? Well, that's the third reason that we might take this approach. Filling a need in the party makeup. Now this is 1000% optional. You don't need a healer, you don't need a tank, you don't need a spellcaster. D&D characters do not have to fit into these defined categories, and you don't have to have one of each in your game. Boy, I sure hope there's no playtest material out there that's gonna skew this conversation and make this age really poorly. Oh well, I'll stand by it. You don't need to. This is all about personal preference. But I'll admit, this is one of my preferences as a player. I'm actually really glad that maybe we're going to have more defined terms going forward if people want to try to get a more balanced party. I'm happy to play characters that others might not want to, because I almost always have cool ideas for those characters. I played a lot of clerics in 5th edition so far because everybody else wanted to play all the flashier classes, which was their loss. Clerics are great. I have never had a bad time playing one. There was one time, only one time, that I've played a cleric where I felt like the mechanics of the subclass just didn't blow me away, and that was with the knowledge domain. But the character himself was absolutely beloved by the other players. This was Dut the Faithful, an elderly, wise, pun-slinging dragonborn. And he was created because I got the call to potentially jump into a game that was short a few players just a few hours before the game started. I basically only had enough time to get in the car and start driving to the location of the game. Like, on the drive there, I asked what classes they already had in the party. And when I found out that they didn't seem to have a healer, I created a cleric. And Dut the Faithful got to drop into an ongoing campaign for a few sessions, deliver some funny one-liners, drop some Uncle Iroh-like wisdom, and leave. Those games may be some of my finest moments as a D&D roleplayer. But for the recent Sunday morning session 0, I was debating between a druid and a paladin, because I felt like we needed somebody who could tank and we needed a healer. And both of those classes can kind of do both those things extremely well. And then we discussed what level we wanted to start at. We talked about this a little bit before the session 0, but one player was really interested in starting at higher levels. Partially that was because, it's a new campaign, you have a chance to do something you maybe haven't had really much chance to do otherwise. And it actually suited itself really well to the premise that we were given. This is an adventure that could work really well for high-level characters, maybe not fit as well for low level. And so during session 0, we narrowed it down and decided to start at level 11. Honestly, because so many other campaigns fizzle out between levels 5 and 8, most of the other players have not played high-level characters in 5th edition. So this is going to be a really fun opportunity. And I didn't have a preference either way, but I did know that whatever we chose would make the decision of which character I was going to play. Because for the druid character, I would really want to start at level 1. Druids intimidate me. Still, I've been playing D&D for years. I've been playing 5th edition the entire time it's been out. Druids intimidate me. The class is so complex, and they have a toe, or a full foot, in every aspect of gameplay. They can fight, they can heal, they have spell casting. They can pretty much do it all. The basic druid, regardless of your subclass, can do anything that any other D&D character can do. But the druid character that I would want to play would be very inexperienced, uncertain as they made their way through a frightened, unfamiliar world that they were not prepared for. Yes, thank you for noticing. I'm very original. But really, it would give me a justification to feel intimidated by the druid's powers, and give me a chance to actually work through those feelings within the game itself. I know that would make me more comfortable playing a druid, so that's where that character idea comes from. And I love the concept for that character. Meanwhile, I know that I could play a paladin at any level and have a gas. So when the group decided they all wanted to start at level 11, I nodded my head, I shelved the druid concept for now, and I started creating my paladin. We discussed how our characters knew each other, and I had a pretty good sense of what I wanted my character to be. His vibe, his personality. And maybe this is just the bias because I did choose the paladin, but getting ready to start this campaign, I really feel like the paladin was the best choice for the campaign. And I'll tell you why. Because if you'll remember, the druid and the wizard were character concepts that I've wanted to play for a long time. And I do think I would have an amazing time playing a character that I'd already had an idea for before the first session, before the session 0. I still think I'm pretty good at picking a character concept that fits really well with the campaign, with the other player characters, while still being something that I've wanted to play for a long time. But the idea for this paladin came to me as I heard the idea, the premise, the pitch for this campaign, which means that he was tailor-made for this story. And when you're lucky enough to have that, a character who is designed to complement the campaign concept, you should embrace that. Now, in my last video in this series, I mentioned that no one approach that I'm going to lay out in this series will serve you for 100% of the process of creating a character. These approaches all blend together, and different concepts can help inform different aspects of the character creation process. And so when it came time to actually build my paladin, I just picked a character from the Tulok the Barbarian YouTube channel and used that as my guiding star. I have a playlist of a bunch of videos where Tulok creates a character who has basically no drawbacks, or just drawbacks that are very easy to work around. So they're mechanically strong, which is something that's going to help a lot with a campaign that's starting at level 11. Because, starting at high levels is kind of daunting. I've done it before, but last time I also started at around level 11, and the character was kind of a mess. Creating a character that's already halfway through their levels, I find really challenging because it's really difficult to figure out what is the right choice when you haven't played through the other levels. You're not able to choose things that are going to, fill the needs that you are finding deficiencies in as you go through the campaign. So using a pre-existing video that gives a lot of guidance on how to create a character who is really strong mechanically, I think this is going to work really well. Now, we rolled up these characters right after the DM's wife had a baby, and right before another player's wife had a baby, and while I had an offer out on a house. So we did know that the plan was to create our characters and then come back to the campaign in a couple of months when everyone's lives had settled down. Some of you might want me to tell stories from this campaign, and I probably will, but not just yet. And I might not do full videos, I don't know. I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to start like a campaign diaries series, so I do want to get into live streaming. Maybe I'll share some stories from the campaign during some live streams, or maybe I'll make some little videos for Patreon. I'm not sure. But in the meantime, we actually have to start playing. Nothing has happened with this character yet, so no updates beyond just the character creation process. I also do want to make a video for Patreon where I guide you through a little bit more about the details of this character. You'll be able to see my race and background, the amazing stat rolls, and you'll find out how many warlock levels I took. We also got to pick some magic items during session 0, and so I think I'm excited to show off the magic items that I've selected as well. I was actually planning to have that video up when this video goes up. I am not going to have the bandwidth to film that then, so give me some time. I owe you this video. Soon? ... question mark? Soon. Let's stick with soon. Thank you so much for watching. It's really good to be getting back to making videos. I'm really excited about it. It is so daunting just to be dealing with all of this at the same time. You might see this setup for a little longer before I can actually get it taken care of. But I am so happy that things are slowing down. Can't be too careful. If you want to support the channel, there are a few wonderful ways you can do that. You can subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about new videos as soon as they come out, which by the way is every Monday and Thursday. I make 2 videos a week. You can support me financially on Patreon. Any dollar amount really helps this channel a tremendous amount. You can join my Discord server and be a part of a cool community of people hanging out and talking about D&D and just chatting and being cool. It's really nice and awesome. And the 4th way you can support me is by signing up for my newsletter and getting cool updates about what I've got going on. All those links are in the doobly-doo below. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, play fair and have fun.